Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I decided to do another book collection video. It's actually the first one in quite some time, I think since November of last year. And since then I've gotten a hold of about 9 new books. So I'm going to be talking about those in this video. Now, the first 3 over here, I want to get these 3 out of the way for personal reasons. That being that these 3 were actually Valentine's Day gifts from my now ex-girlfriend. So yeah, sadly that didn't last. So I just want to get these out the way first. Okay, so yeah, anyway, let's just jump straight into it. The first one is The Last Day by Glenn Clare. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. It's the last great thriller of the 20th century, supposedly. So this one is it's kind of like a sci-fi apocalyptic thriller. So definitely sounds like my thing. And on New Year's Eve of 1999, just before, or just around, rather, the end of the millennium and the end of the 20th century, what happens is a secret military lab in the Negev desert, I believe that's in Jerusalem, is destroyed, and a strange woman emerges out of, all the destruction. She comes bearing a message, but, the question is it legit? Is it just a big, is it a big facade? What is it? So it's a cool concept, and there's definitely a lot of spiritual and philosophical themes and allegories in here, I suspect. So I think it'll be interesting to take a look at this one. Yeah, so that's The Last Day by Glenn Clare. Next up, we have Daniel Easterman, and this is Incarnation, The Dead Return. So this one is also a thriller, but it's more of a political thriller, which is cool. It's about a 12-year-old boy who's being interrogated by 3 intelligence officers because they suspect that he may be the reincarnation of Matthew Hyde, a dead British secret agent who disappeared in China, investigating the links between Iraqi nuclear scientists and Chinese research bases. And there's a big conspiracy involved, and it has to do with Saddam Hussein. And I believe this was published back in 1998. So this was pre-9/11. So yeah, this definitely sounds like something right up my alley as well. And the last of these 3 is something a little different because it's non-fiction, which is something I don't usually read, but this one intrigued me a bit. So this is Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil by John Berendt. And this one is, I think it's based on a true story about an antique dealer who committed a homicide. But the question is, and this was back in 1981, by the way. And the question is, was it murder or self-defense? So it's an intriguing premise. It's like a murder mystery sort of thing. And then obviously it's held in high regard due to these accolades you see here. And apparently it was made into a movie which was directed by Clint Eastwood and stars Kevin Spacey, John Cusack, and Jack Thompson. So yeah, I might check that out after reading this. So this one will be interesting as well. Let's see for that. Now, I couldn't possibly make this video, of course, without bringing up my all-time favorite author, that being Stephen King himself. And this is his second collaboration with Peter Straub, and it's called Black House. And fun fact, this book is it's actually a sequel to The Talisman, which I have on my shelf. I have read. I haven't reviewed it yet. I'll find some time to do that. And I talked about that book in my May 2022 book collection video, which I would highly recommend you check that out because it's like half an hour long and it covers pretty much half the books on my shelf. So yeah, I would recommend you check that out as well. Whereas The Talisman was kind of a dark fantasy novel, this is more of a, straight up horror novel with some detective fiction and a bit of fantasy sprinkled here and there, I suspect. I'm not 100% sure, but from what I'm told, with this one, um, it follows Jack Sawyer, who's now grown up, and he's investigating a series of murders committed by a serial killer known as the Fisherman. That sounds like a really cool serial killer, the Fisherman. And yeah, apparently there are concepts in the book that will be explored in some of the later Dark Tower books, specifically books 5, 6, and 7. So I'm going to read this before I read those Dark Tower books. I have read the first 4 Dark Tower books. I probably need to review Wizard and Glass because I haven't reviewed that yet. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Oh, and fun fact, I'd been meaning to buy this book all year last year, and then I actually went to a flea market back in November, just after I put out my last book collection video, and I found a bookstore at that market, and I so happened to stumble upon this book, and I was completely flabbergasted. I couldn't believe that the book I'd been meaning to get a hold of was right there in front of my eyes. So I went and bought it. It was 30 Rand, which I think is about $1.50, at least now, considering what the exchange rate is like. So yeah, I got it for a pretty good price, and even for a secondhand book, it's actually in a pretty decent condition. I'd be more than comfortable to read it in this condition. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Thankfully, it's not as long as The Talisman was. The Talisman was like 900 pages. This one is about, I think, 100 pages less, if I'm correct. So yeah, this will be interesting, just to see how the story continues from The Talisman, even though I wasn't a big fan of The Talisman. Let's just put it that way. I'm hoping this will be better, and I wonder what kind of, Dark Tower concepts will be introduced and explored here, and hopefully expanded upon in the remaining Dark Tower books. So, okay, now the remaining 5 books are all the Dune sequels. Now, the original Dune book is a book that I also have on my shelf, and that book I also talked about in my May 2022 book collection video. And I also have a Dune playlist, which you can check out on my channel. But anyway, let's get to the Dune sequels. So, the first Dune sequel, which is technically book number 2, is Dune Messiah. Now, this one takes place 12 years after the ending of the original Dune, and you get to see the consequences of Paul Atreides' actions. And supposedly this book is kind of like, to the Dune series, what The Matrix Reloaded was to the Matrix franchise, or what Star Wars The Last Jedi was to the Star Wars franchise, where it basically deconstructs everything you believed you knew about a certain story you've been told, and flips it on its head to make you rethink everything. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, for me personally, it didn't work with The Last Jedi, and it kind of worked with The Matrix Reloaded. I don't know, depending on who you ask, but yeah, with this book, I think that and many other factors will make or break your enjoyment and your overall verdict on it. Because I know some people like it, some people don't. I'm hoping to be surprised by it, despite its short length. It's about 292 pages, if I'm correct. And yeah, I'm also really excited for Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of this particular book, because I loved his first 2 Dune films. So yeah, hopefully this one is as good as the fans say, and far better than the detractors say. So yeah, this one will be interesting. I'm looking forward to reading it later this year. Right, the next one is going to be Children of Dune. This is book number 3. And from what I'm told, this one actually focuses a lot more on Paul Atreides' kids, to be specific. I know that and very little else because I've only read the first book. A lot of people really love this one, and they say the ending is definitely, one of the best endings in the series. I wonder why. I have no clue. Yeah, so it's hard for me to talk about, most of these Dune books without having actually read them because, yeah, I have no idea what I'm in store for. But yeah, it'll be interesting to focus on Paul's kids. And, I wonder which other, characters from the original Dune are still, alive by this point. So it'll be interesting. Yeah. Okay. Now, the next one is God Emperor of Dune. I've heard all sorts of stories about this one, and yet, just like with Children of Dune, I know very little. I've heard that it's, the titular God Emperor of Dune is this godlike being that, answers your questions in ways that, you don't expect. He's meant to be like a teacher or an educator because of his wisdom and his intelligence. And it's more of a philosophical book and an epilogue to the first trilogy than an actual story just like the other books. So this one will be interesting as well. I hear some people really love it and have it as their favorite just because of how philosophical it is, and others don't just because it's slower paced and weird. And I mean, yeah, these books do get weird as they go on. So, yeah. And I've heard some people argue that Frank Herbert should have just stopped here. If that's the case, I'm all the more curious now. So yeah, let's go on Emperor of Dune. Okay, so the next one is Heretics of Dune. So this was supposed to be the first in a new trilogy, and it takes place thousands of years later, if I'm correct, where, all of the characters from the original 3 or 4 books are, like legends by this point. And it feels like, the Dune universe has probably changed in a lot of ways. I'm not sure. And we're supposed to focus on new characters. And there's this new group called the Honored Matress, who are supposedly far more sinister than the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood. I'm not sure. And this book is supposedly a lot more space opera-ish and action-packed than the previous books. I think Frank Herbert definitely took inspiration from Star Wars, which was popular at the time. So this one will be interesting for all of those reasons. And just to see what the Dune universe has become, thousands of years later. So that'll be interesting as well. And the last book for this video is Chapter House Dune. This was supposed to be the second book in the second Dune trilogy, but sadly Frank Herbert passed away before he could finish the story. I know Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson did eventually finish the story with Hunters of Dune and Sandworms of Dune, and they've written a bunch of other like prequel books as well. I think most of which I will probably get a hold of. And I will get a hold of Hunters of Dune and Sandworms of Dune when I am ready. But a lot of people tend to pass those books off as a fan fiction or alternate canon, I suppose. So yeah, this one I know very little about. And but I'm told some say this is better than Heretics because the characters are apparently more fleshed out. Some say it's worse for reasons I don't know. But what I do know is that this book, it supposedly ends on a big cliffhanger ending, and some people love it for the ambiguity, and other people hate it because Frank Herbert, well, he never got to finish the story. And the 2 people who did finish the story didn't do a very good job, apparently. So, for those reasons, yeah, I'm curious to see what this one is all about. And yeah, that settles that. So yeah, that's that. Those are the 9 books that I've covered in this video. I probably won't do another video like this for a while because I don't really plan on buying any more books at the moment. My bookshelf is swarming. um, so yeah, I guess that settles that. Um, so yeah, thank you all for watching, guys. I think as for next time, I'm probably going to start a retrospective on Orphan Black, one of the most underrated modern sci-fi TV shows of all time. So look forward to that very soon. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please be sure to like the video, share it, and subscribe. Ring the bell. Take care, and I'll see you soon.